Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. And in this episode, going to be looking at teddy bear again. And really, actually, as a matter of fact, I really should be having my little teddy bear costume on because teddy bear is looking primed to break its all-time high. So it's getting very close to breaking its all-time high on the US dollar value. So we got teddy bear. We also have BFF inching closer and closer to that $8,000 mark. And we had a 20x on a particular token overnight. So I'm going to cover that token and really start to highlight the kinds of opportunities that are really abounding in the Atropa ecosystem, as well as going into the various drug ecosystems that are connected to leprosy. So there has been some developments in that overnight. So I'm going to be covering those topics. So with that, first of all, let's get into teddy bear, because teddy bear is so close to its all-time high. So very close. So at the moment, teddy bear, let's have a look-see. So if we have a look at what it is to the all-time high, man, yeah. I mean, I want to hit the top of that. So I should be able to, there we go. So 6%, 6.6% away from its all-time high. So teddy bear looking like it's going to break out of its all-time high. There's some pretty good patterns going along here. And yeah, I guess you could draw all bunch of different kinds of lines. I don't really follow that stuff too much, to be completely honest with you. I know that they certainly have some validity somewhere along the way. But yeah, I'm not really sort of TA kind of guy. That's not my forte. I prefer to just kind of go with the sentiment and my gut feel. So ready to break all-time high, but still in relation to WPLS, let's have a look here. So it's still a pretty good buy from WPLS. So to the all-time high, it's a 3.5x. Better yet, the one that people often overlook is, let's have a look-see here. So teddy bear to PLSX. This is the one people are often overlooking. And let's go here to have a look at this particular ratio. Because this one, when I looked at it about a week or two ago, oh, yeah. So there we go. It's really getting close to that all-time high. So now the candles are not on Heikin-Ashi. I always like to go to Heikin-Ashi. It does reduce the accuracy, but I feel like it gives me a better flow. And I prefer to see the flow of the market rather than the candles. I don't really sort of believe in the candles all that much. Okay, so with PLSX, it's a 5.5x to the all-time high, essentially. So the opportunities are still there. It's still a good buy. It still hasn't broken this local top. So it's still a good buy in this regard. Now, it's going to need to move a reasonably fair amount on the US dollar value in order for it to get there. So we don't know where that's going to be. We're thinking some people have basically speculated that it could be like a 3x from here. That can be the price that it will get up to. So we've got to wait and see with teddy bear. So we'll wait and see how it actually goes. So let's keep our eye on that. But it's very exciting that it's almost broken that all-time high. But again, I've traded in my pulse chain and I'm wanting to trade out back into my pulse chain. So part of my renewed strategy that's been updated and developing, part of the flexibility of my strategy and my plan is to stay flexible, stay open-minded and adapt to the market conditions. So what I'm actually wanting to do is use my pulse chain to get into this ecosystem. And then as I start to get into nice profit, take out my initial plus some if I can, depending on how far up it goes and how quickly it goes up. And then basically go back to my initial holdings and or more. And then basically I'll be left with a big chunk of the Atropa ecosystem. And then to continue to do this as it cycles in an upward direction as we get highs, sell, low, high. I mean, of course, here we go that way for you guys. I mean, easier said than done. I'm not going to say I'm going to be able to do it very well, but I do have a pretty good feel for the sentiment of where it's going. And I certainly don't feel like we're anywhere near an all-time high with the Atropa ecosystem at the minute. I still think we're at least a month, potentially even 2 months away. It doesn't feel like euphoria. Things are just trickling up. And also, like I said, we do have these opportunities where you're getting 20x opportunity. So we'll have a look at that in just a minute. So again, BFF, just another update. So it's looking so strong. It's looking really strong. So, for the last few days, It's basically maintained this price level. It hasn't dropped below 5K, which is really good to see. So it stayed above 5K. It's just about gotten back to the 8K, so 6.7. So this is going to be people who are trying to front run, take some of their profit, and that's fine. That's up to them. So this was obviously a big candle here to push it to the 8K, and it actually breached the 8K very, very ever so slightly, and then a bit of selling on that candle as well. So a lot of action there. So I do think, people are within their rights to do some selling. But again, once we get to the 8K and we create those liquidity pools and start thickening it up, then that'll be a good time to start doing the selling rather than now. Let's wait till we get to the 8K, but not financial advice. Everyone's free to do as they choose. So this particular token, Fairlight, I mean, look at this. These are the opportunities that happen in the Atropa ecosystem, and it can happen so quickly because of the low liquidity. So this has 1.9K liquidity in this pair with Pulse Chain and a market cap of $1 million. So obviously that's not entirely. This is why we always talk about the market cap being irrelevant. So the volume is 11K. So this has probably been a great pair if you're an LPer on this, because you have 1.9K and 11K in volume. So if you have a look at, there you go. It tells a completely different story. So now we're in logarithmic. So this tells a completely different story. So now if we have a look at this, the price range from the very bottom to the very top. Wow, what? So that's a 190x or 191x pretty much. So from this recent push here, 27x, 28 or 29x pretty much. So 28.7x. That's really good, man. Like if you put in $1 million Pulse Chain, you can take out a couple million up the top, even more. So you can double your Pulse Chain, triple it, quadruple it. I mean, you could 27x it really if there's enough liquidity in that pool, which I'm not sure that there would be to actually extract that much Pulse Chain out of it because the liquidity is so low. It's something that you'd have to look into. Obviously, with the Atropa ecosystem, the liquidity is so low that when you do buy-ins, if you want to put in like $1 million, you might only just put in like 100,000 and then do 10 buys of 100,000, for example, to really minimize your slippage. And then this is what creates an LP's dream. This is part of the magic of the Atropa ecosystem. It keeps leaving pieces behind for the liquidity providers to keep strengthening the liquidity providers and the ecosystem in turn. One thing that I found really interesting with this, first of all, this pumped apparently because Maria mentioned it in the chat log. So someone said she mentioned it in the chat log that it was a good token to connect with Blaster. And Blaster is something that the Moon King and the Crypto Kings have been talking about and pumping up. So that is a rewards token, Blaster, but it has a tax on it, 30% tax. So I think this is why it pumped, people were saying. So these are the kind of things that can happen. So it can just be one word that pumps. This is the beauty of the Atropa ecosystem. If you have a lot of Pulse Chain, like if you're sitting on like 1 billion Pulse Chain, for example, there's 100 tokens. So you could, it's probably a lot, but you might consider it to be a lot, but I certainly don't. You could say I'm gonna sacrifice 10% of my portfolio and get into like 100 different tokens. And I wouldn't actually recommend this strategy and put $1 million into 100 different tokens in the Atropa ecosystem. And 5 of these gets you your ROI back, gets you your initial back. So just 5 of these. I wouldn't recommend that because not all of them are going to move, obviously, and some of them have had their move, some of them might not move, but it's always a good idea to own them in this kind of a case. So that's what I'm trying to do. But for me, it's a little bit hard because I don't have a huge amount of Pulse Chain to actually be sparing on, just keep spreading out into lots of different tokens. And I'd rather kind of sink my teeth into and understand particular phenomena within the ecosystem and then bet big on the phenomena that I have conviction in on. So what I noticed about this one was it had a huge supply owned by Maria. So this is Maria's wallet, 414. So Bay has 96.94%. Oh no, this is James Cook. What happened to that? Is it over here? I must have accidentally closed it because I wanted to show this as an example. Okay, so I've messed this up. So part of what I wanted to show was basically James Cook I also saw this mentioned in one of the Telegram groups. So shout out to Sunny's Pub. Or it could have been the grill. I'm not too sure. Okay. So now if we go to Fairlight, it's basically the same scenario. So once, just like Maria talking about this once, I would connect it to Blaster, pumps it. If Maria mentions this, I saw someone asking about Sukuk, and apparently Sukuk is this James Cook token. So Maria owns 96.94% of the supply, and same thing with Fairlight. So I think I'd seen James Cook mentioned earlier, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, is this a good thing or not a good thing? I would have thought. So Zach and I were discussing that. Well, if Maria owns a majority of the supply, it's bullish because it means that she's not going to sell it. So she's not going to dump, or we hope she's not going to dump it. We're assuming she's not going to dump it because what's she going to dump it into? Because, well, she might dump it into something. We don't know. So we're just speculating that she's likely not going to dump it. And because she has 96.94% of the supply, then it means that it's only going to be buyers entering in rather than sellers. So this generally means, obviously, upward momentum. And then I saw this mentioned. I saw this Fairlight. And basically with this Fairlight token, I didn't pull the trigger on James Cook until I saw what happened to Fairlight this morning when there was this hype around it in the chats. Wow, okay, it did a 20x or nearly a 30x. So we'll go back to the charts, did nearly a 30x. So now, if we look at James Cook, so James Cook, just like Fairlight, has a very interesting I didn't actually show Fairlight. I'll show that in just a tick. So while I open this up, so now if I go to Fairlight, it's the same phenomena. So you see here that Maria will have the majority of the supply. So she has 93.62% of the supply. So yeah, the majority of the supply. Somebody has 300 tokens here and the rest is like nothing. They own nothing. There's not a lot of big liquidity pools within these tokens. So what does that tell me? So there's a few potential scenarios that can happen with something like this. So same thing with James Cook. There's a few little small liquidity pools, but nothing substantial at all. So I actually don't remember seeing these liquidity pools. So I'm going to see, I'm not sure if they were there when I was looking at it yesterday or not, but I'm just going to have a quick look at this particular liquidity pool here. And while that is loading, let's actually take a look at this chart for James Cook because it's actually quite a unique looking chart. And I really liked what was going on. Failed loading chart settings. Don't you dare. You give me my beautiful colors. Don't you dare. All right, so let's go back to this for a second. I'm jumping around a little. Takes a little bit of time. Oh, don't you dare. Behave. So something went wrong. So maybe because it's more than likely because I've got so many tabs open. And Opera, you have all these side tabs and stuff. So I've got all the things that I do throughout the day on there as well. And I try and segment things and keep things organized. This is my YouTube tab. So when I do a YouTube video, I organize it all in here. All right, so let's have a look at the tokens that are in here with James Cook. All right, so still something went wrong, you dog. All right, so let's refresh that. Oh, you dog. All right, who cares about the colors? Okay, I'm gonna have to, let's have a look at this. So very interesting, or what I perceived to be interesting. So again, I'll put this to Heiken-Ashi and on logarithmic. So very interesting pattern because there was kind of this sideways action. So I'll put this on the 4 hour, might tell a bit of a different story. Can we zoom out far enough? Okay, here we go. On the 4 hour, it's like a little bit better. So very interesting phenomena that's actually happening with James Cook. So there was this kind of action that happened for about half a month and then another huge dump. I don't know what caused this. I don't know how this happened, if it was to do with creating pools or something. I'm not too sure. But what I've seen here is a very slow upward momentum with a 10x from the bottom, a 12x from the bottom, basically. So I dabbled a little bit in this simply because the supply of James Cook is majority owned by Maria. So what could that actually mean? So if she owns the majority of the supply, so where's our James Cook? If she owns a majority of the supply, she could potentially pair a huge chunk of it up with another token, and then with the other token, buy back her supply of James Cook, which would effectively pump the price of James Cook. So these are the kind of little tricks that can happen within the, well, it can happen anywhere, but it's happening within the Atropa ecosystem. So let's see if this little baby girl, all right, so here we go. So we got James Cook and whatever the heck that is. I got no idea. So a very small supply is linked up to there. So very interesting things happening in the Atropa ecosystem as always. So this is something that I've just dabbled in. This is, again, I have these little tokens, and if I hear whispers of it on Telegram, okay, I might have a dabble. I'll investigate first and kind of formulate a thesis around it. So the thesis on this one is Maria could potentially pair it up with something, and then what she pairs it up with, she can pump into James Cook. That's a thesis that I've gone with. Or it could be that it dumps and it's a losing play. But if you look at it from where it is now, for it to get to some of these levels here, it's like, I mean, for it to get to its next closest all-time high, it's just over 100x. So why not have a cheeky gamble, and to its like opening price, it's, you know, it's over 1200x. So it's just a cheeky little degen play, owning a little piece, and maybe it will go up very slowly, and I might just go, all right, I'm just going to take out half because it's not really doing the things that I want it to do, or I might just leave it if it's just a million pulse. So, okay, onto the drugs. So again, the drugs are looking all the same. So not really too much happening here, but there was one interesting thing that I did notice today. So which one was it? So with leprosy. So now leprosy has started to have all these liquidity pools connected to it. So this is different. This is something new that I've noticed. So all these different pools that have been connected to leprosy. So I've already pre-opened these pools, and this is what I'm thinking could happen. So this is what I was talking about, where the tokens can be used to pump the other tokens. So if 15% of the supply was paired with 664, so this is a 666 token, Purple Heart recipient. So this is a new token. So here's the chart. So if this has been paired with this, essentially this 666 token could be used to pump leprosy. Now, that same thing has happened with the Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security. Oops. So shout out to the US government. And that's another 666 token. So these 666 tokens, people have continuously inquired about them. My understanding of the 666 tokens is it's for pure speculation only. Some of them can pump, but basically they're not something that is considered to be like, they're supposed to be used to pump other things. That's my understanding of it. So they're used to kind of like sort of like a light for flyers to come in, and the flyers being the degens. And then once there's enough liquidity in there, then it can be used to pump into something else. So it's enter at your own risk with these 666 tokens, but they are a key part of the ecosystem. And I think the key part is extracting or filtering liquidity through the ecosystem. So another one here, Jethro. Oh, yeah. So this is Jethro. So Jethro is the Secretary of the United States Department. So these names, man, these names are so good. So so again, this could be used to pump. So it's a majority of that supply. Very interesting. Okay, so 663. Now, another one. Which one is this one? So Uncle Tommy, I've got an Uncle Tom. I told my cousin straight away, hey, Georgie, you should be in Pulse Chain. So he's got some Pulse X, but he's like, nah, Richard Hart, this and that. He's a Hex, and he bought the Hex top, and he doesn't like it. So he hates Richard Hart. This is unfortunate. This is just what happens. But I said, George, you got to get over here, mate. Your dad, Uncle Tom he's my cousin. George is my cousin. Uncle Tom, we got a token for Uncle Tom. So get over here so he can pump leprosy. So this is another one, 664. And to me, the charts don't really mean a whole lot as yet. What I'm actually interested in, that there's these whole new liquidity. So this is the president of the United States of America. So this is Cletus, the president of the United States of America. So that's quite interesting, Cletus. And then we have mandate. This was the most interesting one, as a matter of fact. So as I was entering the contract addresses here, I want to show you with mandate. Mandate was the only unique one. So I'll just show you what I mean first of all. So as I was entering the contract addresses in preparation for this stream, have a look at this. So Cletus. Well, Cletus is different as well. Cletus has been paired up with OG Web Chef and Leprosy. OG Web Chef and Buzz. So OG Web Chef, the Infinity token, this gives you rewards in BFF and no nukes. So if you don't have some of that, I strongly recommend getting some of that. And then there's Buzz. Buzz gives you rewards in Infinity. I'm pretty sure Buzz gives you rewards in Infinity. So the fact that these two tokens have been paired with this, I don't know if it's someone from the ecosystem. I don't know if it's someone from that ecosystem. And whether or not this volume going through it is a key part of it. This is going to be something that I'll continue to analyze. Now, whereas I looked at all these other ones, so every single other one, if we have a look at them, they all, I don't know what source is, so I don't even know if that was there before, but they have very small amounts of liquidity pools that they're bonded with. And let's have a look at the Secretary of the United States, Department of Defense. So here we go. So now Magma Fox, Homeland Security. All right, so interesting. So there has been more since I first started this, when I was first looking at this at the start. But what I did notice with this one was there was a lot more, but there was only like 2 or 3 of the other ones before. This one had a lot more, so that made me interested. It's like, oh, okay, all right. Is there something cooking with this, because it's been paired with dye? This is P dye, and it's been paired with V1 and V2. That was something that the others didn't have. The other ones, one of them others do have that. So I thought, oh, something's cooking here if it's paired with V1, V2 and MV. So MV is a token that can be minted. So it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Okay, what's actually happening here? Could there be something interesting happening here where MV can be used to pump this mandate, which can be used to pump the price of mandate, which is going to therefore pump more of the price of leprosy if it's sold into leprosy. So these are some of the interesting plays that I'm really just trying to wrap my head around, trying to see. And I might get to a point where I might pull the trigger on maybe something if I really start to see something. Like I'm looking at mandate going, that's really something quite interesting. It might be worth like a little cheeky gamble with some PLS, maybe a lot less than I would normally put in, just to have some skin in the game. And then maybe even speed as well. Because yeah, who knows? Who really knows? So just by analyzing and observing these things, I'm thinking somewhere here there's going to be a pump in one of these things. Something's going to pump somewhere, and then it's going to pump something else. So if you've seen, I've got to get rid of this teddy bear now. So if you've seen what can actually happen, like I just showed you with was it Fairlight FLT, when you see the things that can actually happen in the Atropa ecosystem and how quick things can move due to the liquidity, that can happen in all these tokens that I just showed. And the fact that the ratios are set up in such a way, the pool, so the person who sets up a liquidity pool sets the ratios of the token. So if they've set the ratio of the token, I mean, they're both 666 tokens, right? So leprosy and say mandate are both 666 tokens. So you would think, well, why don't you pair them up 1-to-1? You could pair them up 1-to-1. So you're the one that determines the value. So Maria is the one that, or whoever creates those pools, I'm imagining it's Maria, is the one will set the value of those tokens in comparison to other things. So therefore, 664 of those tokens is comparable to like, what was it? If I just have a look, I think it was like 100 of the 666 tokens. So very interesting setup there, which means if you just pump, for example, mandate, if mandate pumps, then there's a big pool of the mandate, or the majority of the mandate is connected to leprosy, then that could pump leprosy. And then leprosy can pump something else. And then this is how it's all working. So all these imaginary tokens are just being created out of thin air. A little bit of liquidity goes into it and it starts to move and the gears turn and the whole thing's moving. So the fact that there's new tokens being continuously created, I think some of these tokens are brand spanking new. Some of these ones now that are connected to leprosy, brand new. So the Atropa ecosystem is still, I think, it's in middle gear. So I think we've got another month or two of a pump upward direction. I think we're going to really, with conviction, break the all-time highs on Teddy, PDI, well, we already have on PDI and on Atropa with conviction on those. And then maybe we're going to see it move in some of the others. There has been some comments that TSFI hasn't really had any love in this particular run. Maybe that might be a late bloomer. Maybe that might be an excellent leverage play. This is something that Maria was talking about as a hedge. I believe she was talking about TSFI as a hedge in the Atropa chat logs when I was looking at them many, many months ago, that TSFI was a hedge. So what does that mean? The ratio between TSFI to Atropa, you could trade you could wait for a top in Atropa, trade it into TSFI, maybe everything gets traded back into TSFI, then TSFI has a massive pump, and then that massive pump then filters back into Atropa. So these are some of the interesting things that you can do just by being aware of what's going on in this ecosystem, by paying attention to what's going on, continuing to follow the smarter people. So I'm not the smartest guy. I'm just literally learning as I go and just sharing what I learn, and hopefully it provides value. Hopefully we can all learn together, and hopefully we can all win together. So again, let's keep winning together. Let's keep trying to learn what Maria's cooking for us and what all the other devs are cooking for us. And let's be grateful for these opportunities, man, because we are still so early. I want to keep emphasizing we are still so early. Our blockchain is still so young. It's still so young. We haven't even been through like an epic bull run. If Atropa, if Teddy Bear, if PDI, if the majority of the big name tokens in the Atropa ecosystem breaks their all-time high without Pulse Chain breaking its all-time high, if they break its all-time high, they're establishing themselves as, well, they're proving themselves, the results are proving themselves to be what Maria has spoken about, which is creating an ecosystem of forever floors. So a chart that goes up, comes down, creates a new floor, provide liquidity, goes up, creates a new floor, provides liquidity, goes up. This is exactly what the Tangang is doing. This is exactly what HOA is doing. I'm only seeing this on Pulse Chain. I'm only seeing this collective consciousness of like, hey, let's actually work together to pump all of our bags, and we can all win. We can all win. We can all live off the interest. We can all win off just like not dumping the price down. And then when your bag's all 10,000x and you've got multiple different things in the Atropa ecosystem that's 10,000x, you don't need to sell it all. You don't need to sell it all for like millions and billions or whatever. You just leave it there, and the ecosystem just keeps going up, and you just take out things as you need. Like this is a money printer. This is a financial ecosystem that's being created within the Atropa ecosystem, within Pulse Chain, and it's still so new. We haven't even started the proper bull run yet. How can you not be excited? How can you not be like thrilled to pieces to even know about the Atropa ecosystem? My heart right now is beaming with gratitude. I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed that I'm in Pulse Chain. I feel so blessed that my friends got me into Richard Hart. I feel so blessed that I stumbled across the Atropa ecosystem. I feel so blessed. It's such an amazing opportunity. I only see upside. Again, if we break those all-time highs, we're not even in the bull run. Those all-time highs are going to keep getting broken and broken and broken and broken just by the design of the system, by the way that the community consciousness works. We are on team win. We're on the win. We're on the team win chain. And you know what? The influencers are going to start talking about us as well. The big influencers are going to start seeing these results, and those results are going to start drawing people in. They're going to look at this chain and go, hang on a minute. Okay, yes, I'm late in Atropa, but it's proven that it keeps going up. So I'm just going to wait for a dip, and I'm just going to get into Atropa. I'm just going to get into Teddy Bear. I don't care. Okay, all right. I'm never going to get the 10,000, the 20,000x that Moon King got, or the very early day ones. I'm never going to get that because I'm so late. But I can still get a good return on my investment because I can actually just let the system do its thing, let the community consciousness do its thing. How is that not amazing? How is that not amazing? Like when the outside world starts to see that everything here is not pumping and dumping, everything out there is pumping and dumping. They'll go through bull runs and pump and dumps. Everything here is like continuing to stabilize. We probably still are going to have a massive dump at the end of the bull market. But if we can establish some kind of like peak floor, even after that bull market, so we don't see like, 99.9% drops, we see it forming like a higher low than it ever has formed, even after the peak of the bull market euphoria, then we're in team win. It's just forever upside. It's just forever upside in this ecosystem. There is no limit. There's literally no limit. And then like, everybody wins. Everybody wins. Everybody can be onboarded. Countries can be onboarded onto this. So El Salvador onboarded into Bitcoin and it dumped. And okay, it's probably going to come back. But what about Kenya? So I've got one of my friends. So shout out to you, Rob. So he's someone that I met on Fiverr, and he did some work for me on Fiverr. Did a very good job. Draftsman. So as an architect, when I was running my business at the time, I needed extra help. So I hired a draftsman online, and I gave him some hex at one point, just to onboard him into the ecosystem. I really liked him. He's a really nice guy. And he's asking me now about Atropa. So he's watching my videos, but he doesn't know how to get into it. So I'm going to make a video how to easily get into the Atropa ecosystem. But I'm thinking of those countries as well, where the money that they have, it doesn't have the same power as the Australian dollar or the US dollar, but they can actually enter into this ecosystem and can really change their lives for good. They don't need to be like buying Bitcoin and waiting for a 2x. Entire countries can come in, plug into the ecosystem, and multiply their money and start creating economic energy like they are unable to in the traditional financial system. That's what's exciting. That's why there's all these different tokens that are being created as well. This web is just going to keep growing. The vision here is huge, and it's on Pulse Chain, man. It's on Pulse Chain, the Freedom Chain, the team win. We're all going to win together. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Thank you very much, everybody, and take care.